you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the October the 25th edition of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and again, we thank you for the privilege of your time. 10/25/2022. Wow, where has the month gone? Anyway, here we are, and we would like for you to be our participant in today's programming, and all you have to do is to call this number, 516-453-9921, and if you have a comment or a question, then please, ma'am, please, sir, make it brief. Push the number 1 button so that I can recognize you. And also, when you're on there, give the call screener your name so that he or she can print it on the board, and I can get it there. I see we have a couple on there already, but make sure you give your name for me to do. Okay. Now, if you are a first-time caller, be sure to tell the call screener, in addition to giving out your name, make sure you tell the call screener that you are a new caller, and we have a special program set up just for you where your call can be heard. In other words, you will get through. You don't have to be scared or intimidated. Just ask your question. Be brief, please. We are always up against the clock because we only have a 2-hour window, so please be brief. But you can do that. Also, give your name to the call screener, and then I'll know. Get the new call alert. Now, others, you can do this. You can simply dial that number and listen to the show if you want to. You can do that. Again, that number is 516-453-9921. I have discovered that many people do that. They like to listen to the show like that, and you can certainly do that. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. I will get that, and I will tell you that I got it by saying got it. Usually I do that. Now, I cannot promise you and would not promise you that your Gmail will be read on today's program, but at some time it will be read in the future, and I will alert you and let you know that your Gmail is being read, date, and the time. Also, you can do this. You can go into our chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, click on programs, and then the Produce Justice show will come up. You click on that, and then the chat room becomes available to you. You can get in there and chat with the chatters, whatever the comments that are being made in there, good conversations. I would ask, ma'am, sir, that you do not use the chat room to ask Mr. Fuller a question. That is for what the number is for. But occasionally I will glean a comment from the chat room and maybe discuss that or ask Mr. Fuller something about that. But do not, please, ma'am, please, sir, do not use the chat room to ask your question. Okay? All righty. Okay, now, all the books and materials that you will hear on this show can be obtained by going to producejustice.com. You will hear that all throughout the program, producejustice.com. You will also hear occasionally the I don't know. You'll hear that occasionally. Don't be alarmed because sometimes we don't know. We're all still learning. We're all still learning. So if we don't know, we don't know, but we'll find out. I know I try to do a lot of research on different things, and then so that I can be informed, because we all are still learning. Okay, with that being said, for those of you who missed Mr. Fuller on the not this show, but excuse me, something is in my throat there. But all the shows can be accessed by going to producejustice.com, and when you do that, you'll see all the different programs that Mr. Fuller has, or different programs that he will speak on, and you can access that information right there. You can do all that, okay? Okay. So let's do this. We usually start out the program by asking Mr. Fuller. First of all, Mr. Fuller, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Good. And we'd like to start off with asking you, which has been our custom of late, what are the thoughts and expressions that are on your mind that you would like to share with the listeners this morning?
I think it might be important for the victims of white supremacy, the non-white people of the planet, people classified as black, brown, red, yellow, beige, people who are usually thought of as people of color. As an individual person, always keep in mind that you don't own anything in the system of racism, that the system of racism is the dominant political system and religious system on planet Earth. Now, that's either true or false, but you can think about it. What system of government is the most powerful among the people of planet Earth here in the year 2022? And so, if you think about it, I have thought about it, and that's what everything that I say is based on. It's the system of racism, and that system should not exist. A system of justice should exist. Why? Because the system of racism is designed to do harm to people, deliberately designed to do that. And a system of justice is designed not to do harm to people, but to always do something of constructive value. We don't have any such system designed to not harm people anywhere on the planet, because the system of racism will not allow it. And part of that system of racism, and this is the main thought on my mind this morning, is that all victims of racism, the non-white people, should wake up in the morning and go to bed at night thinking that you don't own anything. You're not an owner. You are owned. Owned by whom? The system of racism. In all areas of activity, if you stop to think about it, you're a person with color in your skin. Under the area of economics, do you own anything? Really own anything? Owning means can't be taken away from you. Everything is set up so that whatever you own cannot be taken away from you. You can give it away. You can negotiate to have it removed from your presence if it's some type of physical object and whatnot. Your very act of continuing to breathe, you don't own anything. You don't own your own next breath under the system of what? Racism. Why? Because unless you have some type of quote-unquote divine intervention, meaning the creator of the universe, you're at the mercy
of the white supremacists as to whether or not you're going to see the end of this day or the next hour, because they have it set up so that if you're a person of color, they can see to it that you will be dead anytime they choose to kill you. The only thing that can stop it, your death today, would be interference, quote, unquote, by the white supremacist, racist man and racist woman, because they have terrestrial, meaning here on the planet, ownership of you. You're a slave. You're a prisoner of war. Prisoners of war and slaves do not own anything. Now, there are people who will say, no, nobody owns me, you know, and you can take that position. But the evidence shows if you're a person of color, you're disappointed many times. Now, what's the value in thinking this way? Because you should be trying to avoid disappointment. Disappointment can be very hurtful. It can cause you to despair and to not keep trying to get things done. So the whole purpose of me saying this about ownership, a house or a car, your very breath, or people who attend to you who may not survive this day. You get a phone call, and the person that you call your son or your daughter or your sister or brother is dead. Because of the system of white supremacy, death is something that's a constant companion for non-white people all over the world. So don't be disappointed if that happens.
Okay.
As soon as you...
Are you still there, Mr. Fuller? Because I went blank there for a minute.
We've been blanked?
Okay, yeah, there you go. You went blank for a moment. What was that last statement you made there? Because you went blank there for a moment.
The last statement, don't be disappointed about anything unfortunate that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Misfortune or disappointment goes with existing in the system of white supremacy. So prepare your mind. And I was thinking about a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So the end of this decade is a suitable time frame for black people all over the world, anywhere in the world, to at any moment, non-white people, to expect something very ugly to happen at any time. Be prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main things, one of the most common things, is this thing called ownership. Having a house that you can say is yours, it can't be taken. No, don't think like that, according to counter-racist logic. Think that just the opposite is going to happen. Even though you've kept up your payments and all like that, the white supremacists can come along and make you move. You are a prisoner of war. They have that type of power over you, no matter what argument you put forth.
Mm-hmm.
They settle all arguments if you're a person of color. They still do what they want to do. They prove that. If they want you dead, you're going to be dead, most likely. And they have all kinds of ways of doing it, usually having some other person of color to kill you. They put you in situations, in neighborhoods, have you being a member of a tribe and all like that, and have somebody of color see to it, an opposing tribe, kill you. They know how to arrange this very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So your ownership. Think about ownership now, what you own. You don't own anything. You're a prisoner of war.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you think you have permanently, you can lose in the next 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be disappointed. That's the reason for me saying this. Disappointment can stop you from continuing to do what you ought to be doing, and that's to continue to do what you ought to be doing.
What you ought to be doing. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's my thought.
That's your thoughts today. All righty. Let's get on with it. By the way, what I was going to say, you can also listen to past podcasts by going to producejustice.com. Mr. Fuller is on there. And also, he's on there on the Carl Nelson Show. He's on there. You can get that. If you missed it, you can get that interview. It's about an hour and 40-something minutes, but it's very, very good. I think I've listened to it twice. But, you can always learn something there and pick up something there. Let me read this concerning, we have people all over the world that listen to the program. I get a lot of Gmails and emails concerning that. But listen, when you want to order a book, the books, and all 3 books are in, so that I am told, this is just for the international orders or orders outside the United States. It says we are currently in the process of establishing a cost-effective and efficient distribution channel to your location. As soon as we have finalized the shipping procedure, we will let you know. In the meantime, please continue to visit this website, that's producejustice.com. Listen to the podcast and stay abreast of the latest developments. Now, if you're in one of those countries, it says lead time. Please allow 7 to 10 days for delivery, and there will be no shipments on national holidays. And while I'm here, I might as well read this. This is the disclaimer. This disclaimer sets forth the general guidelines, disclosure, and terms of your use of the ProduceJustice.com website and any of its related products. This disclaimer is a legally binding agreement between you and us. Now, by accessing and using the website, your knowledge that you have read, understood, and agree to be bound by the terms of this disclaimer. You can also read that on ProduceJustice.com. Now, this is important. If you are aware of any infringement or unauthorized use of Neely Fuller Jr.'s materials, please send us the offender's website, social media page, or other information to contact@producejustice.com. Now, that's very important because you have a lot of people doing a lot of things out there that they should not do. So you want to make sure, we want to make sure that everything is above board and legal. Okay, before we get into the phone calls, Mr. Fuller, a question, a very interesting question has been brought forth in the room, and it just says this. It says, racism harms non-white people. White people helping non-white people harms non-white people. Is white people creating justice another form of white people helping / harming non-white people? What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Fuller?
Anything that brings harm to non-white people in the system of white supremacy, it means the white supremacists, whomever they are, racist man, racist woman, are to blame. We are their illegitimate children. By that I mean not necessarily by sexual intercourse, and that's the product of it. That includes that. but by them making us the victims of white supremacy, victims of white supremacy. And so they have reduced us to childhood, meaning dependent on them for everything. So anything that happens to a black person that should not happen, regardless of who does it, you're doing it under the system of white supremacy. Therefore, whoever's in charge, and the white supremacists are always in charge of non-white people. Non-white people do not own or are not in charge of anything in the system of racism. No black person is what you call in charge of anything, including him or herself, in the system of white supremacy. So anything unfortunate, quote unquote, that happens to a black person in the system of white supremacy, it is because the white supremacists are to blame for that incident or whatever it is, that misfortune of any kind coming from anywhere. They're to blame. The so-called parents are always to blame for the conduct of the child. If it's something where they are in a situation to prevent it, and the white supremacists are in that position from stopping one non-white person from doing harm to another non-white person or to anybody, another white person. They're to blame. They took charge, you want to use that expression, of the black people of planet Earth. And they still have power in all areas of activity. Economics, education. Black people get their education from the white supremacists. The so-called little money that we are allowed to have. Some of us have a lot of it. You have a lot of it because the white supremacists say it's okay for you to have a lot of it. They have complete domination over the monies of this planet. The white people who practice racism over all money. There's no money that's worth anything that they don't have domination over. So any black person that you see with money, that money is not worth anything if the white supremacists say that it's not worth anything. So they have that domination. So in answer to the question, the white supremacists are always to blame for anything that happens to a black person during the system of white supremacy that should not happen. Anything that's, and any fortune that you get that they want you to have, you'll get it. And any misfortune that they want you to have, they're to blame for it. They are in total charge outside of what they call divine intervention decides.
Okay. Well, since you said they are to blame, would they be to blame for, what is his name, Kanye West, making his statements that everybody seems to be against?
Absolutely. If he does anything that doesn't make sense. The victims of white supremacy are required to even qualify by the white supremacists to be called crazy. If you find any non-white person who is labeled as insane, that insanity has to be verified by the white supremacists, or that person isn't insane. And the white supremacists just simply say so. Nothing insane about this person. Or the person is super insane. If they're talking about a black person, it's the white supremacists that decide who's sane and who's not. No non-white person can do that on the planet ever in the system of racism.
Mm-hmm.
They can say it, but the white supremacists can overrule it simply by saying, no, a person is completely sane. And this person says things that make sense. Or the white supremacists will say, this person says things that don't make sense. In fact, that black person is lying. When the white supremacists say that, that's it. No black person has the power to say he's not and make it stick. Everything that non-white people do, black people do, in the system of white supremacy has to be okayed by white supremacy. That's what white supremacy means.
Mm-hmm. So when Kanye West walks around with that shirt on that I saw the other day, White Lives Matter, or said that he has made some anti-Semitic remarks, then it's all the white folks' fault?
Sure.
White mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you want to, he wouldn't be doing it if the white supremacists didn't approve of it. That's what white supremacy means. They take that shirt off him at any time. Simply by, if they want to, right this minute, eliminating him. He'll no longer be here through this day. If they want him out of the way, what's going to stop them? Who's big enough and bad enough to do it? Who has color in their skin and get away with it? See, because when people do things, whether it's plus or minus, non-white people, yeah, you can do things because they permit that too. But are you ready for the consequences? And the consequences will come from the white supremacists.
Okay. Let me take a little break here. You're listening to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on blogtalkradio.com and also at producejustice.com. To get in contact with the show, just simply call 516-453-9921. Make sure you press the number 1 button so that you can ask your question and give Mr. Fuller time enough to answer your question. Make sure that you, again, push that number 1 button. If you're the first-time caller, make sure that you give the call screener your name so that you can be heard. We have a special program set up for you. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, and I will at some point answer that Gmail, and then your question will be read at a specific time. And you can join the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on programs, and then the Produce Justice show will come up. You click on that, and then the chat room button will come up. You push that, and you can join the chatters. And they are in there this morning. Yes, they are. Okay. All right, with that in mind, let's go to the phone line. Now, that person that just from the 615 area code, please be sure that you give your name to the call screener so that when I come to you, we can get you in. All right, get ready, Joe in Harlem. Get ready. I'm getting ready to cue you in here. Okay, Joe in Harlem, you are there. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. So my question today is, I don't know if Mr. Fuller, if he heard about that situation where this black lady, a black female, had killed this white firefighter who was choking out her black care male, and she was exonerated from being charged and she was given a self-defense. But the question is, should she have should she have enacted Mecca? Should she have killed herself after killing the white person? Because she wasn't in direct harm. Her boyfriend was.
And the question is, should she have what?
Enacted Mecca.
Enacted
Mecca.
Enacted Mecca?
Yeah, the acronym for I can't get the word right now, so sorry. I'll have the book right in front of me. 1 second. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's in the war section. Something that you don't really know. The maximum emergency compensatory action, MECA. Maximum emergency compensatory action. Should she have enacted maximum emergency compensatory action after she killed the white person who was beating up and almost killing her boyfriend?
Well, according to the code, anytime, I'll just put it this way, because I'm not familiar with what you're talking about.
Okay.
Except in the ninth area of activity under war, you have a thing called maximum emergency compensatory action. Now, what that is, that if you are a non-white person on the planet and you willfully and deliberately kill another person unjustly, you willfully and deliberately did it. According to the code, you are supposed to immediately, after doing that killing, kill yourself. That's so that somebody else won't be blamed or be charged with being involved in what you did. You do what you do. You made that choice. And so you step up to the plate, because a part of the code is no person anywhere on the planet is supposed to kill anybody without everybody on the planet knowing two things: who did it and why. And if a non-white person did it, that non-white person either did it because it should have been done, self-defense or something like that. If it was self-defense, that doesn't call for maximum emergency compensatory action at all. If it is self-defense. But if it's the non-white person did any kind of killing of another person, willfully, deliberately, and non-justly, in other words, it shouldn't have been done, then that non-white person shouldn't wait to be punished by anybody else. He or she, under the laws of justice, eliminates him or herself from this earth. In other words, kill the other person, kill yourself. That's an even trade. If the other person was killed willfully, deliberately, and unjustly. And that would apply to anybody, really, who does that. Don't have somebody passing judgment on you. Pass judgment on yourself, because that's what you deserve, really. The whole thing is, that's why it's called maximum emergency compensatory action. It's to help to promote the concept and the practice of justice, which is balance between people. You mistreated someone. Killing a person is mistreatment. Also, you want to take the blame or credit for whatever it is you did, not have somebody else do it, having them running around looking for someone else when you did it, ran somewhere and hid, which is what black people do and white people do in the system of white supremacy. We want that eliminated forever. You kill someone deliberately and willfully and unjustly, get yourself out of here at the same time, as soon as you possibly can.
Joe, what was her circumstance, Joe?
Yeah, so she killed a white firefighter who was beating up her boyfriend. He was choking her boyfriend out. This white firefighter, and she took her gun and shot him, like in protection of him, in protection of the black boyfriend. She shot the white man.
Oh well.
So,
I said willfully, deliberately, and unjustly. I mean, was it the correct thing for her to do? It's either correct or incorrect. So that's what was determined by the court, I guess. So what was the determination?
That was self-defense of the boyfriend. So they didn't give her any charges. They let her go.
They let her go because the white supremacists decided that she could go under that circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the boyfriend was under duress. He was being choked out, and she was trying to stop the white man from killing her boyfriend. And he wouldn't stop, so she took her gun and shot it.
Well, the white supremacists decided that it had to do with killing. So that's what killing is all about.
You're right.
Either you're defending somebody or whatever, even though, according to the code, if she and her so-called boyfriend were having sexual intercourse, he himself is a white supremacist according to the code, or suspected white supremacist. You can't call him that because the code doesn't permit that.
The boyfriend was a black male, and
the boyfriend was a black male.
Yes, and the white man had a fight with her boyfriend, and the white man was beating up her boyfriend, almost killing him. So to stop the white man from killing her boyfriend, she took her gun and shot the white man.
Oh, yes, and she was exonerated also, correct?
Exactly.
They said she did the correct thing.
Exactly.
Okay, well, then that's it. It was the correct thing. It was defense of a person from being harmed. That's what.
Okay.
That's what firefighters do. Since they, you said she was a firefighter and whatnot.
Was a firefighter too.
Yes, when she gets on a truck and goes out, I mean, get out of the way. They have a big bell and they have sirens and whistles. Move. I mean, hey, everybody, move. I mean, we got to get to where somebody's being harmed.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
And we got to stop that harm. That's what you call justice.
Okay. Before we move on, so we can be.
Yes.
Before we move on, so that we can be clear, that situation is not a maximum emergency compensatory action situation.
Not at all.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Joe. Joe, thanks for your call, man. Appreciate that.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. All righty. We have a new caller alert. And that is going to be Stephen from Nashville. Stephen, let me see if I can get you in here. Okay, Stephen. Okay, wait a minute. There you go. Stephen, good morning. You're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. My question is, I recently got your book in January, so I'm still reading it. I'm asking about particularly Area 8. There's a particular person that's running that didn't win this time for a particular seat. He is pushing for reparations in the community, in the black community. However, he is homosexual. Can he still push for reparations and speak for us as long as he's not pushing his lifestyle?
The question is, can a black person who is homosexual ask
Yes, sir.
for reparations?
Yes, sir. And I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, so certain people go through certain situations, but as long as he's pushing black first, such as I'll give an example as James Baldwin. A lot of people didn't know that James Baldwin was homosexual. James Baldwin said, I don't want to discuss that. I want to stick to my black people. I want to push stuff for my black people. Can he still speak for us?
In other words, can a black person who is, quote,
participating, yes, sir,
unquote, homosexual, ask for
yes,
justice?
Sir.
That's basically
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Can a black person who is a homosexual ask for justice? Is that the question?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes,
the
sir.
answer is yes. Every person should ask for justice, regardless of who they are, what color they are, whatever their age is, or what they do, or what they haven't done. Justice is the whole goal for everybody on the planet, 24/7, no exceptions. You always ask for a situation where you have non-justice, and the whole world now is under the government of non-justice, a system of white supremacy. That's a non-just system. Should it be replaced with a system of justice? The answer is yes, regardless of what person makes the request. That's the whole point of existence here in 2022. Replacing non-justice with justice. And what is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all areas of activity. End of story.
Okay. All righty. All right, Stephen, since you are a new caller, this is what we say, or this is what I say. Don't be a stranger, and call back again. Thank you so much. That person that was on hold here, he came off my screen, so if you call back, the call screeners will expedite you right to the top of the call board. So call back and we will get you in. In the meantime and in between time, Mr. Fuller, there's been a lot of talk about your book. A lot of people are buying the book. So why don't we take this time for you to speak about your book?
Well, the answers to these questions are supposed to be in the book, and those that are not, that's questions about racism, anything dealing with racism. That's what the book is supposed to cover. What to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, by each individual person, in order to do what? While you're here on this great planet that we've been given, in this great universe that was given to us. What are we supposed to be doing? We're supposed to be practicing justice and correctness, which would bring about, which would really, by definition, produce something called peace. Truth plus justice plus correctness. Now, what is truth? Truth is that which is. That which is what? Is what it is. So you reveal that. Black people have a slang for it called tell it like it is. Just the way it is. Don't add anything. Don't subtract anything. Just it is what it is. That's truth. When you add truth to a thing called justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all areas of activity, and that's every person in the known universe, gets justice. Truth plus justice plus correctness, that is, every person doing the correct thing, saying the correct thing all the time, never saying anything that's incorrect or non-constructive. Never, ever. And everything that you do is correct and constructive. Truth plus justice, correctness will theoretically, logically speaking, equal what? Peace. Truth, justice, correctness equals peace. You don't have that anywhere in the known universe, anywhere. Not for 2 minutes. Why? Because you can't have a system of white supremacy and have peace in the same universe at the same time. That's impossible. So if you don't have that, the revelation of truth used in such a manner that you produce a thing called justice and correctness. But as long as you have the system of white supremacy, you're not going to have truth revealed correctly. You're not going to have justice. You're not going to have correctness. You have to get rid of the system of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so this is what this book is about. For the individual victim of racism.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue, Mr. Fuller. I'm sorry.
Yes. The individual victim of racism will know what to do and what not to do, what to say, what not to say, and an example
to be having
of
some
correct
problems,
words.
Mr. Fuller?
Hello?
Are you there?
Are you connected with me correctly? Are you having a problem?
Yeah, I cannot hear Mr. Fuller at all.
Can the audience hear me?
Robert, I cannot hear Mr. Fuller. All righty. I don't know what the problem is. And I don't mean to cut you off, Mr. Fuller, and I'm not being disrespectful, but I cannot
No.
Oh, okay,
do what needs to be done.
Okay, there you go. Now I can hear you. Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off in here, but were you finishing up on your book because we have?
Well, I didn't know what was going on. I'm just finding out now.
There it goes again.
Are we back on air now?
I see the usual suspects are in play. So let's see if we can go on here. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can get Joe from Colorado. Sam from Colorado. Sam, I'm going to try to see if I can get you in here and see what the problem is. Okay, Sam from Colorado, you are, look at this. It's just buffering here. Now, I don't know what's going on here. Wait a minute, Sam. Still trying to get you in here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it seems like it's breaking up in here. Okay, Sam? No? Okay, there you go. Sam from Colorado? Hello, Sam?
Good morning, Mr. Yeah.
There you go.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby Gordon.
There you go.
Mr. Fuller. I've read it a ton of times, and I still can't really understand, I guess, the logic of the statement you made. I can't remember what page it's on, but you said when someone asks where you're from, you suggested responding, I'm from everywhere I've ever been and everywhere I've never been. Is that correct?
Yes. If a person asks me where I am from, I am from every place I have ever been, and I am also from every place I have never been.
I don't understand that part.
If I've never been to a place, I'm from that place. I've never been to the planet Venus, as far as I know. But I'm from there. Now, why would I come up with a statement like that anyway in response to the question, where am I from? It's because...
Sorry, I'd like to stay on the line as well.
Okay.
Hello?
Thank
Can
you.
you
Go
hear
ahead, Mr.
me?
Fuller. Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Can
Fuller.
everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Okay. Where you're from, is that important for people to know? It's information, so all information can be useful, I guess. But to be argumentative, see, the code is about doing things that are necessary to be done. It's not necessary for anybody to know where I'm from. It's necessary for people to know what I'm here for and what I am doing and what I have done, if I've done anything constructive, and go on from there. See, in other words, we got to be focused. This keeps a lot of unnecessary talk down, too, which is not a part of the code. You don't do unnecessary talk. Words are important. Rambling talk or talking just to be talking without having any objective for what you're saying, any goal for what you're trying to accomplish. What's your goal for saying what you're saying? If you can't say what the goal is and it has a constructive effect according to the code, you don't say anything, ever, to anybody. And it's the same way when people start talking about where you're from. Where you're from, what will that mean if I tell you where I'm from? Well, now, that might be important. So when you give the answer, I'm from every place that I have ever been, and I'm from every place I've never been. I'm from, right now, every place where I am not. I'm from there because I am where I am. And all the places that I may go to, I may go from the living room to the kitchen. And then when I come out of the kitchen and go back in what we call the living room, I am from the kitchen. Why? Because I'm no longer in the kitchen. Black people have to understand that type of logic. And what's practical about that? Or is that just some type of word game just to be playing with people? No. That's to have black people think about when people say, are you of African descent? Then the first question you have then, logically speaking, is, what is African descent? We pay attention to words. Words are important.
Mm-hmm.
What is that supposed to mean in the system of white supremacy? Where is it? Well, there's a place called Africa. Have you been to Africa? Are you from Africa? Well, according to the codes, no such thing as Africa. There's no such thing as Africans. These people don't exist and never have in the system of white supremacy. I don't know about before. But in the system of white supremacy, justice never existed. So for one thing, why is this important? Because an African is a person who practices justice. And practicing justice in the system of white supremacy is impossible. So there's no such thing as an African people. And I'm descended, or I'm from, a great African people. You don't look at the world in that frame of reference. You have what you call frame of references. So codification is about changing maybe thousands of frames of reference. And talking about where you're from, you put that in another frame of reference. I'm from every place I've ever been, and I'm telling the truth. And I'm from every place I've never been. So now, what does this being from got to do with what we are going to talk about? Because everything is a matter of either doing what needs to be done at the time that it needs to be done or not. That's what everything is about, every second that I spend in the known universe. So this is a quick way of getting to what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, what I have done, we can ask about that. What have you done? All the things you have ever done. Well, I haven't produced justice. Let's get focus on that right quick. Which means that everything I've ever done was a mistake. If I've never produced justice, because we are here to correct mistakes. And the biggest mistake is the system of white supremacy in 2022. Mm-hmm. So everything that I do and say is supposed to be connected with replacing that system of white supremacy with the system of justice. Otherwise, a conversation about anything does not make sense.
Does not make sense. Okay. Sam, I'm going to keep you on the line as you requested. Let me say this as we wind this down. If you notice, or if you were online, Mr. Fuller usually starts every program out when I ask him, "How you doing, Mr. Fuller?" He says, "I'm still learning." Now, that's not just a statement that he just makes, but in regards to your question that you asked, which is a very good question, everywhere and from nowhere and from everywhere I've ever been, it's just like this, Sam. If you throw grass seed out on the ground, do you expect it to come up the next day? No. You have learned somewhere down the line that it takes a while for it to come. That statement that you have in question, you may not understand it right now, but you have to give it time and let it sink in. And when it does, then you'll understand. Some things you'll understand right away, and some things you won't. That's just the way that life tends to be. But that's okay. That's still a good question. Even if you don't know right now, remember I said there sometimes we're going to say, you know, Mr. Fuller might say, I don't know. But in this case, he did know. In this case, you know, you're thinking about that. You're pondering that, which is okay. Keep on pondering that, because as you ponder, you still learn. Listen, we've come to the end of the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. So those of you who have to go, we thank you for your listenership, and we hope that you can listen to the program next week. For those of you that are going to stay, stick and stay. Don't go away, because we have another full hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. We will even try to do even better in the second hour as we deal with the usual suspects. Thank you, Still Learning, too, as they have tried to interrupt our program, but that is to be expected. So you've been listening to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Stay tuned for the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Coming up in about 10 seconds from right now. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we thank you for listening. To get in contact with today's program, all you need to do is call 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or comment, and please be brief, just press the number 1 button, and then the call screener will come on. Give the call screener your name so that I could properly give you an introduction. Hopefully, and I've been working on it, my pronunciation will hopefully be good, but, you know, I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes on that. But do that. if you are a first-time caller, we have a special program set up just for you. All you have to do is let the call screener know that you are a new caller or first-time caller, and we'll make sure that you will be heard. All righty. You can also access the program by Gmail. All you have to do is do this to the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, and I will get it, and I will let you know that I got it. And it may not be read today, but at some point in time it will be read, and I'll let you know about that too. You can also get into the chat room, and there's some good conversations that are in the chat room, and occasionally I will lift one out of there and present it to the whole world, and we can go on from there. But listen, please do not use the chat room for you to ask a question for Mr. Fuller. That's what the 800 number is for. You do that, and then we can go on from there. The chat room is for the chat, but occasionally I will glean something from the chat room and put it up. Okay? Okay. All the materials that will be used can be accessed. We're going to produce at producejustice.com. And all the latest information, books, and so forth will be on there. Okay. See, we're going to keep Joe from Harlem. Sam from Colorado, we're going to... Okay, yeah, we're going to keep you on there, too. Okay, this is from the Gmail. This comes from Daryl. It says, Mr. Fuller, you have kept up with some of the daily reports about Kanye West or Ye getting canceled for making so-called anti-Semitic remarks. And if so, what is your take on that situation? And in general, whenever a black person of prominence has been labeled as being a so-called anti-Semite. And, by the way, how do we as black people deal with this extreme form of white supremacy coming from the so-called Jewish community who own and control a disproportionate amount of the entertainment industry? Social media are at the top of sports agents, those in medicine, law, who control labor, and have financed wars in the past, all while playing victims. Thank you for taking my question.
The code on the Area 7 in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. Area 7 is about religion. And the compensatory counter-racist code says this about religion, any religion. What to say as a victim of white supremacy, what to say when a question about religion of any kind comes up. You only stick with saying three things initially, and you don't deviate as a base from those three things. The three things are as follows. Anytime anybody mentions anything about any religion, and you are involved in that saying, this is what you say according to the code book. You put everything, first of all, in the form of a question. And the questions are, the three questions, in order to get clarity and focus and not have chaos, and to do the correct thing. It's going to always be correct without a long argument. These are the three things. What is the name of your religion? That's question one. That's what you ask anybody anytime they start saying anything about religion. What's the name of your religion? And listen for the answer. Most religions have names. What's the name of your religion? and wait for the answer, and don't argue about the answer that you get. Then you move to number 2 after you get the answer. What does your religion require you to do in all areas of activity? Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, other people's religions, sex, and war. In other words, the 9 areas of activity as listed in the code, throughout the code. What does your religion require you to do and not do in all of those 9 areas, sir or ma'am? You're talking to a person about religion now. You ask that first question, what's the name of your religion? And don't argue about the answers that you get. Most religions have names. So you want to know what these words mean, this name means. What's the name of it? So you get to that by going to what does this religion require you to do, meaning the person who has the religion, not somebody else. People may have different religions, but you want to know what the person that you're talking to about religion, you want to know what is your religion. I'll tell you what mine is, but I'm asking you what is your religion and what is the name of it. And then the second thing is, what does your religion require you to do in all areas of activity? In other words, we got to have a little time to discuss this. And then the third question is, what does your religion require you to do when you interact with me, so that I will never be confused about who's doing what in regards to your religion? Because presumably you're going to tell me, you're going to give me the answer to those 3 questions. Otherwise, I'm not saying nothing about your religion because I don't know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the assumption. I don't ever start telling a person about their religion. If you say you're a Christian, is that a religion? Yeah, that's the name of my religion. That, you know, hypothetically, if that's who you're talking to, a person who is a Christian. I used to call myself one, you know, but that's another story. But I'll answer on the air now. I mean, what if someone asks me, Neely Fuller, right now, what's the name of my religion? It's eclectic pluralism. That's the name that I gave it, because I didn't have a name for it. And I can go into details about that. Because if a person has a religion, they should be willing to tell you what their religion is, the name of it, what it requires them to do when they interact with anybody, including people of other religions. You got requirements. What are those requirements? You want to know all the do's and don'ts so that you don't have confusion, all right? That's deadly, particularly when you start talking about religions. You don't want any mistakes at all, none. And you don't want any confusion, and confusion is always a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And that third question, what does that person's religion require that person to do when they interact with me? And I won't need to know anything else but the answers to those 3 questions. Because now we're going to have everything straight. It's not going to be no whole lot of controversy. Because I will always go by the person, and that's another thing. This is very important to everybody. If the person is talking about religion and wants to talk to you about religion, the first thing you want to know is, what is their religion. And if that person wants to know what your religion is, you should tell them. And be able to answer any questions in detail so that you don't have any confusion. Because when you got confusion, you're going to have some mistreatment too. That's going to go with it.
Okay.
You got to have a clarity and a focus.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
And so if everybody right now listening to my voice worldwide, that will clear up any type of controversy about religion. It will make it clear where everybody stands. Why? Because everybody said what their religion is and what it requires them to do and why and everything. All questions got to be answered about that.
Yes.
Before we have a discussion about religion, otherwise we got confusion. And confusion in anything, particularly something as important as religion, that's a no-no, according to the code. That's an absolute no-no.
All righty. Okay. That was from Daryl. Let me ask this question. This is an interesting question, Mr. Fuller. From the chat room, a question was asked, was the disappearance of the Afro-Argentines an example of racial population tailoring or racial population dislocation, or both?
I don't know what they're talking about. The question. I don't understand the question. That's the way.
Well, that was a question in the chat.
Argentine.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Then you've written about racial population tailoring and racial population dislocation. Could you explain that for those who may not understand that?
Racial dislocation just means you cause a person to have to move from one place to another. Deliberately and unjustly. That's dislocation. That's not relocation. Relocation is when people move on their own. But when you cause them to move and they didn't want to move, that's dislocation. Like this.
Right.
Okay. We understand in black people's slang, dissing. That's dislocation. Okay. You're being forced to move.
Yeah,
when you and you're being forced to move one way or another, directly and indirectly. So I heard a word called Argentine. Did I hear something like that?
Argentine. Yeah, apparently there's some people black people down in Argentina. First of all, it's something that had to do with racial population tailoring or racial tailoring. And then I guess they were forced to move. Dislocation. So
if they're forced to move, that's dislocation.
Yeah, right.
And
what about racial population tailoring? What about that?
Racial population tailoring is when you see to it directly and indirectly. I'll give an example. Poisoning the water so that people die because you want the numbers reduced. That's tailoring the population. So in the case of, if it has anything to do with racism, meaning the white supremacists are causing the population to be reduced of non-white people, that's population tailoring. They're tailoring. They're not just trying to kill all of the people. They're not trying to do away with all the people, but they're cutting down on the numbers to fit what they want in that particular place at that particular time. That's racial population tailoring, according to the code. Racial dislocation is you're causing people to move from the place where they are, and they don't want to move, but you make them move by maybe poisoning the water. And the people can't get water unless the water is poisoned. So the people are forced to move.
As in the Trail of Tears people.
Oh, well, many examples. Black people are not just then. It's going on in the system of white supremacy around the clock. Both the population tailoring, when black people kill each other. That's part of it. So white supremacists are to blame for that.
Do you think, Mr. Fuller, in your opinion, your humble opinion, that this gentrification is a part of that dislocation?
Absolutely. What they call, when you ask people what is gentrification, that's moving people. And you ask the people, well, did you want to move? They say no. Say, well, that's the white supremacist's fault. If you're a person of color, you've been dislocated. They made you move when you didn't want to move.
Yeah.
You know, you wanted to stay where you were. But they made you move. They say, well, you're not going to stay here. Even if you didn't pay your house note or your rent. They're in charge of that.
Yes.
You're completely. We are their illegitimate children. They are supposed to look out for us.
Yes, sir.
But the white supremacists are child abusers. Every last one of them.
Yes, sir.
In any court, you can say that.
Yes, sir. I noticed that when I've been studying the 1952 Highway Act, where they went through certain areas of certain large metropolitan areas, particularly where black folks live, and put in a freeway system.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Being forced to move.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Being forced to move. There's when you see people moving and they don't want to move, you say, why are you moving? You don't want to move. They'll say, well, we're being made to move. Made by whom? If you're a person of color. They say, well, they call us migrants. Say, well, who is they? Who's causing you to move from where you are? They say, well, there's too much gunfire where I am. Well, who's causing the gunfire? See, you got a lot of questions. Questions and answers is what solves all problems. Just like we finished talking about religion a while ago.
Yes,
questions, answer. Question, answer. Is there a problem with the person saying something that should not be said? Why is there a problem? What's causing the problem? Because all problems are solved through the process of what? Questions and answers. Problems about religion, problems about people being forced to move. Just ask enough questions and get enough answers. And they got to be correct answers or they're not answers.
They're not answers, yes, sir.
That problem is solved, whether it's about any area of activity, economics, or religion, or sex, or war. Just by questions and answers. You can solve it.
Okay. All righty. Let's go to the questions here. There we go, Chris. Hey, they just got your name up here. Let's go to, okay, here we go, the usual suspects. Come on here. Trying to get you in here. Chris from Houston. Are you on here, Chris? Nope.
I'm on here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay. You guys were on the topic of gentrification. And if there's a phrase, here's my question. My apologies. The phrase, the needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few. In that instance, could that be in the mind of the white supremacists when gentrification is applied?
If I understand the question.
Okay.
For some understanding, I have difficulty understanding questions. Everybody knows that by now that listens to this program.
You want me to re-ask it?
If you have so-called gentrification, just think about that word. First of all, you get words straight. What is gentrification? See, all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So you always start with what a word means if you're using words to solve the problem. So you want to know what every word means. Gentrification, I have been told, meaning white supremacists forcing, directly and indirectly, non-white people to move from one place to another. That's what it means in function. Yes or no? That's what I've been told. So let's get that straight first. Is that what that word means? And I've concluded from what I've heard, yes. That should not be done. If that's the next question, should that be done or not? Yes or no? No, it shouldn't be done. That's racism. Just another expression of racism, that's all. Another practice of racism. And just look at the word that is chosen, gentrification, meaning gentle. This is something that people do when they are gentle. In other words, civilized. We're going to gentrify this area because it's not gentrified with those people being where they are. It's not civilized. Have them move so that now the place has been cleansed. It's been gentrified. Mm-hmm. It's gentle. It's been gentilized. Listen to words. Look at words. Know what every word means. How it associates with other words. Gentle. Why choose that word? You're moving people. I made these people move. Well, what do you call that making them move? So that it's now gentrified. What was it before? It wasn't gentle. We made it gentle. No gunfire. Well, in a lot of places that's supposed to be gentrified, you got that now because what you put out in one place, you might get back in the place where you are.
Yes.
So you got schools being shot up now everywhere. Are they gentrified? Yeah. Grocery stores, theaters, places of entertainment. Whatever you put out, it begins to spread to where you are. Mm-hmm. The white supremacists ought to know that. They're the most intelligent people on the planet. Whatever they put out, there's an old saying, the evil that you do by 2 and 2, you will pay for 1 by 1. The law of compensation.
The law of compensation. Wow. Well, let's do this. Let's compensate for this. Let's take a little break here. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here as we take our last break. And we thank you for listening. Now, if you would like to be a participant on today's show by asking a question, all you need to do is call 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or comment, just press the number 1 button, and then a little hand will come up on my screen, and then I will be able to tune you in. Thank you, Swa. I see you just came in here. And now, if you would like for me to read your question, just Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. That may not be read today, but I'll read it as I'm getting ready to do after we come out of this break. And lastly, you can join the chat room. All you have to do is to go to the blogtalkradio.com. And then you want to make sure that you click on programs, and there you will find the Produce Justice show. Then you click on that bad boy, and then a chat room icon becomes available for you to get in the chat. And they've had some interesting conversation in the chat today. So we thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay. And by the way, all the books and materials that you can get, even past programs, can be accessed by going to producejustice.com, including but not limited to Mr. Fuller's talk on the Carl Nelson show. Yeah, in fact, a lot of those are not archived, but in podcasts, and you can beam them up anytime you want to and listen to them, and I do that quite a bit. Okay, before I get to this Gmail, Mr. Fuller, a question, an interesting question came up in the chat room, says this. This was to the chatters, but I'm going to put it out all over the world. Is practicing the compensatory code equivalent to taking a religious approach? In other words, a strong belief followed by action toward creating justice.
Yes, all actions, if a person believes in the action that he or she is taking, and they're taking it voluntarily, and that's something you want to do, that's your religion. That's the definition of religion. Religion is nothing but a strong belief backed up by action. That's a direct and simple way of saying it. A religion, by definition, any religion, is a belief, rather. A strong belief backed up by action. If you say you have a religion and you don't back up your religion by doing what you say your religion requires you to do, that's not your religion. If you're doing something contrary, that's not your religion. You're saying that that's your religion, but you're not telling the truth. And once a person is not telling the truth about their religion, everything is downhill. I mean, you say that this is your entire life. This is what you believe in. This is what you do. Under all circumstances, you don't do nothing outside of your religion unless you're made to do it, which is a violation of your religion. But you're doing this and you're calling it your religion. You're not telling the truth about your religion, which means you can't be trusted to tell the truth about anything.
Wow. Ooh.
That's why I say those three questions. Mm-hmm. If it's a religion, first thing you want to know is this a religious matter? All right? Like somebody was saying early on in the program. Well, the first thing you want to know is this a religious matter or what? What kind of matter is this? What are we talking about? They say, well, this involves religion. Oh, now we're talking about something serious. We're talking about dynamite, all right? Because we're talking about strong beliefs backed up by action. So you want to know what everybody's strong religion is, and whatever this controversy is. Religion is strong because it's something you deeply believe in, and you're going to act on whatever that religion requires. You're not going to do anything outside of that religion, period. Otherwise, you got confusion, and you can't have that in any of the 9 areas of activity.
No.
And claim that you are trying to do the correct thing. No, you're not telling the truth.
You're not telling the truth.
And you got to have truth in order to get anything done according to the code, the way it should be done.
Or else it's not going to work.
Everybody.
Got to be truthful. All right.
Yeah, you can't come up with no lie now. Or any kind.
No.
All right.
No lie. All righty. Let me do this here. And Swall, hang on, Swall. I'll get to you. This comes from England, Mr. Fuller, or the concept called England, Great Britain, United Kingdom, whatever. Says this, Dear Mr. Fuller, I'm constantly writing more about racism, white supremacy, which I find to be extremely helpful because I think about it all the time. However, I would like you, and maybe some of the listeners, to comment upon my counter-racist statement, is it true or false, which is, quote, people mostly seek out black people for fun and frolic. Black people seek out white people out of sheer necessity and sustenance, end of quote. This comes from Anthony in London.
Now, white people seek out white people for what?
It says white people mostly seek out black people for fun and frolic, while black people seek out white people out of sheer necessity and sustenance.
Yes, that sounds truthful to me.
Okay.
And, you know, that's a statement that's made, and is that statement true? According to what? According to evidence. It's either true or false. It seems like that statement is true, unless somebody can show where it's not true. Basically, it's black people. Which way does the white people go? That's the saying that I say all the time.
Exactly.
You know, if we want food, if we want anything, and in the system of white supremacy, black people are dependent children, illegitimate children, and and children depends on the masters of children, which would be what we call grown-ups and all like that. And in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists are the grown-ups of the planet when it comes to non-white people. So everything that non-white people want, in order to get it, it has to be approved of for them to have it by the white supremacists, either directly or indirectly. And sure, the white supremacists, they don't really have to seek out. I mean, you know, you can say that they can seek them out, but they already have all non-white people in bondage or in slavery or in servitude, prisoners of war to the white supremacists. They already have that. They're not trying to get it. So that might be to go in depth about the answer to the question. The answer to the question is the white supremacists don't have to really seek out black people for anything. They already know what black people are doing and where they are and what they can do and what they can't do, because white supremacists, in order to be supreme, have to know all this in front. So they don't have to find it out. They know everything that's necessary to be known about non-white people.
Yes, sir.
Because they are their masters. You can't be the master over a bunch of slaves unless you know what your slaves are doing, where they are. If you don't know where they are and what they're doing, and you disapprove of what they're doing, if you knew about it, that means you're not a master. But the white supremacists know everything that there is to know that's worth knowing about black, brown, red, yellow people, or people that we call of color. the white supremacists know everything that they think they need to know. Mm-hmm. They're not trying to find out anything, even when they pretend that they do. They know. Oh. And they know what you're going to do because they're going to plan it. And then blame you for what they plan sometimes.
And blame, yes.
Yeah.
Blame you.
They made that plan.
Yes. How about this, Mr. Fuller? Could it be said that according to compensatory counter-racist logic is to follow the logic of that question? What does the evidence indicate concerning, that particular question? And in order for that to happen, the truth would tell you, will answer Mr. McKean's question, what white people mostly seek out black people for fun and frolic. Examine the evidence on it. What does the evidence say?
Because that's what they do.
That's what they do.
Yes. All you got to do is just look, here come the white people. Why are they coming to me?
Right. Yeah.
They have a reason.
And tell the truth. Don't lie. Tell the truth.
Yeah, and just look at the evidence.
Yeah.
Here comes a white person, and they say that you're a person of color. This white person is looking for you. They want to talk to you. Well, talk to me about what?
About what?
They want to interact with you. Interact with me how?
Asking questions.
In order to accomplish what? All you got to do is, and then if they're seeking you out, they'll let you know why they're there. Because when they're not seeking you out, they'll let you know why they're doing that too.
So stay in the question mode.
I've already done what I wanted to do where you're concerned. Now I'm gone. I don't want to see you no more until I decide I want to see you again for my benefit.
Stay in the question mode. I like it. All righty. Speaking about question mode, we're going to go way out to L.A. My man that's out there. All right, Swab, we got you on here. Go ahead. Talk to me. Wait a minute. There you go.
Bobby, greetings, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., are you familiar with the victim of racism, Darrell Brooks?
Darrell Brooks. No, I'm not familiar with the name.
Okay. He is a victim of racism, accused of killing 6 white people at the Waukesha parade last year. Can you explain how everything we do is simply a reaction to the system of racism and white supremacy?
Everything that any black person does is a result of the system of white supremacy. Why? Because the white supremacists are in charge of everything that a black person does, regardless of what it is. They guide them. We don't have a guide other than that, other than the white supremacists. When I say we, I mean people of color, including me. Even writing my book, talking about white supremacists, that's the white supremacists' result. It's a result of white supremacists. I wouldn't be writing a book about white supremacy if white supremacists didn't exist. I wouldn't know anything about that. I was taught by them about racism. They taught me. They made sure that I knew about racism. They made sure that I knew about racism. Where did I get racism from? Did I make that up? No. That's what I mean by being masters. They taught me about racism. I wouldn't have known anything about racism without them teaching me, carefully teaching me. You better know what it is, boy. Or if you don't understand it, I got a whip here, or a hangman's noose, and I can demonstrate in a manner in which you will make no mistake. And others who will look at this will say, oh, that's racism. Say, yeah, you want to put it in that capsule. I can kill you anytime I want to, or have some other black person kill you, and you can't do nothing to me about it. You don't know anybody that has the muscle that I have over you. And if you think you do, try me. That's white supremacy. They are proven they know what they're doing. They are proven that they do have power.
Yes. All right. All right, Swa. Thank you so much for your call there. I'll have to tell you not to be a stranger because you are not a stranger. Mr. Fuller, I can't find it, but thank you, Swa. But somebody was asking about your movie list. Do you have a movie list, and have you updated it, or different books that you've read? But I guess the main thing was about the movie list. Do you have a movie list? And
it's on the website.
Mm-hmm.
ProduceJustice.com. Last time I checked, which was some time ago, it's on the website.
Okay.
Have you seen it yourself, Mr. Bobby?
I have seen the movie list, but
I think go to ProduceJustice.com, and I don't know the mechanics of how you handle it with the technology, but ProduceJustice.com, it's there. It's the same, and the list is there. And what is this movie list about? It's about mostly the centerpiece, the things that I'm trying to do, is showing individuals. Each individual has a certain amount of power. And I show these, I present this movie list with the intention of having a person, particularly a non-white person, that's what it's for, that's what the list is for, that's what the website is for, that's what all the books are for, victims of white supremacy. And you can learn lessons from each one of the movies and try to center your attention on the individual person that stands out more than any other person in the movie who is trying to do the best that they can under the circumstances that are given, and learn lessons from that, and then learn lessons from all of the other people that they interact with, and see how people interact, different scenarios, questions that are asked, questions that are answered, things that people do, things that people don't do. Thousands of lessons that can be done or presented in an entertaining, in what you might call an entertainment form. Mm-hmm. See, because all education is supposed to be entertaining.
Entertainment, yes.
That's the best way. Why? Mm-hmm. Because that's the best way. If you can teach people or have people think about things, because I always say I'm not a teacher, I just present things for people to think about. And then you make up your own mind about what thoughts you get and what actions you take. That's all my book is supposed to be about.
Okay.
People sometimes refer to Neely Fuller as a teacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a leader. Not qualified to be either one of those things ever. But I just present material in such a way to cause people, I hope, to think and to speak and to act in a manner that does what? Produces constructive results in everything that you do.
Okay. Alrighty. Here is a Gmail from Caleb D. He says this: Dear Mr. Fuller, I'm writing to question you if you've heard of the YouTube channel Hip Hop Cartoons. This channel animates segments of your 2-hour broadcast into a format that children can watch. Because of that channel, I've stumbled across your work, your body of work, and I've been able to share your message with my son and other children of my family. Thanks. Best regards, Caleb. I didn't know that was on there. Were you aware of that, Mr. Fuller?
Aware of the cartoons?
Hip Hop, it says the YouTube channel Hip Hop Cartoons, where I guess they're saying that they take some segments of your program or what we talk about and put them in cartoons where children can understand what you are saying. And evidently, this person is very happy in that because he is able to share that with his children and children of other children of the family.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
Oh, okay.
And I have seen some of the cartoons.
Uh-huh.
yes.
And
The answer is yes, I'm aware.
Okay, let me put that down there because this was a Gmail. Okay, Mr. Fuller says yes. Okay, yes. Okay. All right, let me send that out to him. Okay. Okay. Very good, very good. Okay, now, somebody wrote a question, and again, we have new callers calling all the time, or I'm getting mail all the time. One of the questions that comes up all the time is this right here. What is the importance of having a code or to be codified?
The importance is everything that works efficiently has a code. Meaning it's something that you do, that it works when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not against you, but for you, the person who is doing whatever the code says. It works. It accomplishes the task. It works. Anything that doesn't work should not be a part of the code for any person or creature or the elements of the universe. The universe itself operates according to a code. That's why it works. There's such a thing as an apple seed. An apple seed in the correct environment produces apples. So you know that that's codified when you eat the apple. Otherwise, the apple wouldn't exist. And if you want an apple and you find an apple, you know that an apple exists. The only reason that apple exists for you to have found it, wherever it was, is for it to have been produced. That apple was produced according to a cause and effect, something called an apple seed, in the correct environment for that seed to grow into an apple, going from an apple seed to an apple that you can consume as food. That's codified. A person should have a code or the code for doing everything that will always produce a constructive result. We all need that.
Yes, sir.
Particularly victims of racism, more than anybody on the planet. And everybody on the planet should be helping to achieve that. Because the biggest problem on the planet is everything that's happening that's keeping that from happening. Codified people. In the code book, I call it universal man, universal woman. That should be everybody's goal. People who are codified, that every time you do something, it works the way it should work, with no flaws.
No flaws.
Every time you say something, the result is always going to be constructive. You're not going to say anything that's not constructive, ever.
Mm-hmm.
That's code.
Okay.
That's the importance of having or being had by a code, the correct code.
Yes, sir. Okay, another Gmail. This was a little while back, but I'll read it. It says, "Dear Mr. Fuller, this week the whole world saw how powerful the highest branches on the tree of white supremacy really work, with Prince Andrew paying out millions of dollars to settle a lawsuit with a victim of sex trafficking whom he allegedly sexually abused in the past. Previously, Prince Andrew's lawyers were accusing this victim of being a money-grabbing hussy. After the agreed settlement, Prince Andrew is said to have referred to the victim as a, quote, brave woman, end of quote. He also said to have said that he will now become an ambassador for fighting the evils of sex trafficking and fighting for victims of sex trafficking. As soon as I heard this, I was immediately reminded about what you, Mr. Fuller, have said, saying for several years now that, quote, white supremacy plays both sides of every argument. It creates victims and also plays the role of a universal guardian for its victims, end of quote. That same tactic is used by the so-called British in relation to the transatlantic slave trade. They were some of the biggest slave traders throughout the world, but today they boast about being so-called humane, end of quote. They abolished the transatlantic slave trade. On the other side of the argument, whenever so-called black Brits bring up the topic of reparations for slavery, the usual suspects immediately shut down our arguments by saying things like Africans enslaved other Africans, Africans sold other Africans into slavery, and slavery was such a long time ago, we cannot go so far back in history to repair every wrong. Mr. Fuller, could you please talk about how black people should always remain vigilant and wise when it comes to the tactics of suspected white supremacists playing both sides of every argument? Kind regards, Anthony.
Yes, that's the code. You know that the white supremacists, or should know that the white supremacists play all sides of every argument. How can they lose an argument? But you eliminate the argument through questions and answers. For instance, this is the codified procedure, questions and answers. You will ask a question about if, for example, the word slavery. Always pay attention to words, because this is what you're going to ask questions about. Pay attention to every word. And you can form a question, which is words. Now, just in the illustrations that were presented to me just now, what's the codified procedure? Sir, if I was talking to the person that used the word slavery, I would ask that person, what is slavery? Now, according to the code, slavery is mistreatment. Anytime you're being mistreated and no one is stopping the mistreatment, the person who is being mistreated has been and is enslaved by the person who is enacting the mistreatment. So you simply ask the person, what is slavery? And see what they say, so you'll be on the same page. Now, if the person says anything that slavery is a form of mistreatment, then you ask, is anybody being mistreated right now? Because according to the code, slavery is any kind of mistreatment that does not stop. That's all it is, no matter what form it takes. That's what slavery is. So did slavery end? The answer is straight up. That's a straight up question. Questions and answers. That's all you need. Has slavery ended? And the person says, well, what is slavery? Mistreatment. Has mistreatment ended? Has mistreatment based on color ended? And if the answer is, if you go according to the definition of slavery, slavery is mistreatment. No, slavery has not ended. So when they start talking about long ago, stop and think about what you just said. See, that's what I mean by paying strict attention to words. Slavery is mistreatment. Has mistreatment ended based on color of people? The answer is no. So slavery has not ended, sir, ma'am. According to what? The logic of what we just said. What we just said. What we agreed to. But if the statement was, well, slavery ended a long time ago. Well, what is slavery? Slavery is mistreatment. Well, did mistreatment end? See, two questions. That's what I mean by questions, questions, questions. And paying attention to every word. Just don't throw words out there and then walk off. No, you might have 1,000 questions about one word.
Yes.
That's the codified procedure. That's why we need a code.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you, Anthony in England, for that history lesson. Thank you. Well, we have come to the end of this week's programming, so I'd like to thank you, callers, for calling in and for writing in and being in the chat room. But most of all, thank you, Mr. Fuller, for sharing your information and helping us. Everybody, remember that you can get all the books by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. Mr. Fuller, the final word for you.
Yes. Well, the final words are just handed out. Did slavery end of non-white people based on color? Yes or no? And the answer is no, it didn't.
All right.
So nobody can come up talking about the past. In the past years, we did have slavery. Is any non-white person, any black person being mistreated by a white person based on color? And the answer is yes, slavery did not end, sir, ma'am. And that's the truth.
All
So
right.
stop talking about slavery ended. It didn't.
We'll try to do better next week. Thank you.